Okay, let's start over again. A while back I got my hands on this awesome figure. It's Logan/Wolverine from the awesome series X-Men 97. As a kid I used to watch the original X-Men series and it was so cool and fun. And it is so cool that after all these years the series continues on Disney Plus and we get these awesome figures to collect. But instead of placing him between my other figures, I thought let's make a little diorama piece for this guy. And seeing his outfit, it reminded me of a classic X-Men comic book cover. This one, the awesome story Days of Future Past. And although I don't have a Kitty Pryde figure that can stand next to it, I thought this comic book cover would be an awesome inspiration to start a new diorama piece for this Logan figure. So I went through my stash of leftover foam scraps. You know, the one that says this might be useful someday. And I start building up the wall. With just a blunt pencil you can instantly carve in some brick texture. Just apply some light pressure. But just having bricks is a bit boring, you want some character. So I start carving in some damage, some chipped corners, some deep cracks, some bullet holes, some broken edges, you name it, and you just place it in there. Just make it a bit messy and random. And to add more depth and character, I cut out 2 openings that will become the windows. And right away that gives the wall a bit more dimension. Then I grab some thinner pieces of foam sheets to build up the wall sills and the wooden framing. And these type of details make the diorama a bit more interesting to look at and it just has a little bit of extra texture. I want to cover the windows up with some wooden boards. This is easily done with just a few thin pieces of foam, but before attaching those pieces, I just carve in some wood grain with, again, a blunt pencil. Just some uneven lines. Wood is very natural, so it doesn't need to be perfect. And once these are glued in place, the whole thing already starts to scream a little bit more post-apocalyptic, just like the comic book where we are getting our inspiration from. Next up is the base. This is just another simple foam board, but this time instead of walls I carve in pavement line to suggest these individual concrete pieces. And then just to add some damage again, some chips, some dents, some cracks and just some unevenness in the whole piece. We just want to have a little bit of a look at a city that has been through some chaos and doesn't look clean. The comic book cover shows some rubble scattered everywhere, and in the story the future isn't exactly kind to the mutants. So this stage is just very creative. You just want to add in some rubble and some debris and some broken pieces everywhere just to get that post-apocalyptic rough texture. And when these pieces are roughly done, I just seal everything with a black acrylic base coat. And this is really a magic step because all of these little carved details are suddenly popping up and you can really see that the textures are working. But then this is where things went wrong. Let me show you what happened. Days of Future Past was not my only comic book that I got my inspiration from. There is another all-time classic, Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. And the inspiration that I wanted to get out of Watchmen was the use of its color. And it's actually a very ugly use of the color. And let me explain you why. So if you take a look at the standard color wheel, most of our well-known heroes are made of primary colors, red, blue and yellow. Think about Spider-Man, Superman, Wonder Woman and classic Thor, for example. And these colors are a psychological shorthand for power, determination and trust. They feel safe for us. But then you have the secondary colors, and these are made out of a combination of 2 out of the primary colors. So they are green, orange and purple. And in character design, these are usually made for contrast. Think about Spider-Man, for example. He is red and blue, but a lot of his villains are actually made out of the secondary colors, mostly green with accents of purple and orange. Think about Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Mysterio, the Lizard, and there are many more. They are a perfect contrast to Spider-Man, the red and blue versus the secondary colors, the green, the purples and the oranges. So on a comic book cover they are creating a very nice clash. And this is where Watchmen comes in. And if you ask me, it's brilliant what Watchmen did with the use of its colors. By mixing all of those secondary colors with muddy browns and harsh purples, it creates a gritty, decaying, off-center world that you actually don't want to be in. And I wanted to use that gritty vibe for my X-Men diorama. And let me show you how that went. So back to the build, I began to lay a layer of purple on my black base coat. And in the beginning it looked okay, but I needed a lot of layers to actually see the purple. I guess the black absorbed a lot. I tried to give it a bit of a bluish base to then put purple on top, but nothing really came together the way I wanted it. And when I made an attempt to get the yellow circle in, it just didn't look the way I wanted it. So I began to tear down the raised surfaces to get a flat back, flip the wall around and started over. That meant carving in my brickwork again, getting some texture in the bricks and some damage, and adding the windowsills, framing and other details. And I thought to now start with the yellow circle on a lighter background. I hoped this would help. From there I thought to build up the purple tone, layer by layer, and make it darker the more I get to the edges of the build. Sounded good in my head, but in reality it was working a bit less. The building was this time just very purple, a bit too purple. And the more I looked at it, the more small little mistakes, so to say, I began to see. The circle was not really in the middle, the purple was not really working for me, and I just didn't like it so much as I thought I would. So what to do? Just starting over one more time. Again, breaking down everything that was poking out, so the window seals and these raised bricks. But yeah, by this time I already used 2 sides, so I had to cut the wall in half to then lay it down on my hot wire cutter to take out a very thin layer of the foam on the front, just enough to have a clean surface again. And to then go in to start over everything once again. Carving in the bricks, the cracks, the window sills, yeah, you've seen this already. But I liked how the yellow circle looked on top of the clean white foam, so I will do that to start with. And next I will just go back to my original inspiration, which was the comic book cover of Days of Future Past, where we will see mostly blue tones. And this looked already way better than the purple tone. And I felt confident enough this time to push through. I also enjoyed it again way more. The layering effect of the blue worked this time, and the Dio had a nice darker edges the more it gets towards the edges of the build and away from the yellow circle. Also the brown wooden panels are looking great against the blue background. And the cover shows a lot of these ink lines in the bricks, and I wanted to add that type of detail as well. So with a black Posca I drew a few of those lines in, while in the yellow I did the same with a blue Posca. This was a very cool effect, and it made the wall look so much better and more alive. And putting the wall on the ground base let me think of where the light would hit the objects on the ground, and giving those a yellow highlight as well blends everything nicely together. So at this point all the work on the wall and the ground is finally done, which means I can move on to the part I enjoy the most, the details. On the cover you can see that there is a pole right here, so I thought it would be a perfect place for a poster warning about the Sentinel threat. Then there is the forbidden sign. This one is pretty simple. I designed it digitally, printed it on regular paper, glued it onto a piece of foam and then painted it with a very thin layer of yellow and blue. The idea is that it hangs half in the light and half in the shadow, which is why you see those 2 different colors. I also made a small newspaper that I'll scatter on the ground. And if you want to read the latest headlines in this universe, feel free to pause the video. But then it was time to start the big one, the wanted poster. This is where I took a bit of creative freedom. Instead of copying the comic book cover exactly, I wanted that the characters on the poster would match the look of the X-Men 97 figures, that I will be using in the diorama. So I started drawing them one by one. And I even swapped out a few characters compared to the original artwork. For example, in this version of the story, Jubilee is still alive, used as bait to lure Wolverine into a trap. Once the artwork was done, I printed a poster in a few different sizes to see what worked best in the scene. After that, I roughed up the edges a little bit, added some wear and tear, and darkened the corners in a few strategic spots to make it look like it's been hanging there for a while. And with that all done, there is just one more signature poster to hang up. And then it is time for the final reveal. We fought them many times before, but this time it was different. Out of nowhere they had the school surrounded, and in the chaos, Summers tried to hold them back. That was the last we saw of him. Jean was heartbroken, and with a small team we attacked Mastermold. That's where we lost the most of us. Since then, most of the mutants are gone, but I'm still looking for one. Surrender to them. Okay, Bob, let's go. I'm really happy how this little diorama has turned out. It is great to display some X-Men 97 figures in front of it, and if I take away the poster details, it can easily be used for some other figures like these Batman figures. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you have an awesome day. And if you would like to subscribe, I would highly appreciate it. See you in the next video.